So, what if the key to solving the next decade's biggest development challenges isn't hiding in some high-tech lab in Silicon Valley? What if it's actually on a hurricane-battered island in the Caribbean? Today, we're unpacking a really radical idea that Puerto Rico isn't just a problem to be solved, but a blueprint to be built. We're looking at the island as a high-stakes testing ground for a totally new model of development, one that's designed for a future of climate shocks and, aging infrastructure. And that quote just hits you, right? It captures the urgency perfectly. The crises hitting Puerto Rico today, we're talking grid failure, mass displacement, climate disasters. These are not isolated events. They are a sneak peek of what cities from Miami to Houston are going to be facing in the years to come. For an investor or a builder, this isn't just a scary headline. It's a look at the future operating environment. It is a compressed future, and it's happening right now. And that's where this core concept of the test island comes in. Think of it as a place where the future has arrived way ahead of schedule. And here's the critical part. The immense difficulty of operating here, that isn't a bug, it's actually a feature. Because if you can build a model that is profitable, resilient, and community-aligned here, you've basically created a solution that can work almost anywhere else on Earth. Okay, so let's really dive into this thesis. What does this compressed future actually look like on the ground? Well, it's defined by three major overlapping crises that create this incredibly challenging, yet surprisingly opportunity-rich environment for a new kind of developer. First up, you've got El Apagón, the rolling blackouts. These aren't just a rare emergency, they're a chronic condition that literally grinds life and business to a halt. Second, there's a huge displacement crisis, where tax incentives for outsiders and a boom in vacation rentals are pushing lifelong residents out of their own neighborhoods. And third, this great paradox of abandonment. Thousands of buildings, schools, hotels, strip malls are just sitting empty and decaying, while at the very same time, the island is facing a desperate shortage of affordable housing and essential services. So, inside that really challenging terrain, what are the actual conditions of this test? It's a landscape of just stark contrasts. It's a place where massive opportunity is locked in this constant battle with some deep structural friction. Let's break down both sides of that equation, shall we? On the one hand, the potential is just undeniable. All those abandoned buildings, that creates a massive supply of distressed assets, and they're available at a fraction of mainland prices. The market gaps aren't some kind of speculation. They are urgent, documented needs for things like workforce housing, microclinics, and climate-resilient food storage. The broken grid itself creates a huge competitive advantage for any project that can guarantee its own power with solar and batteries. And crucially, local mayors are desperate for partners who can deliver visible wins for their communities, and fast. But on the other hand, the friction is just as real. Getting a permit can drag your project into a limbo that lasts 18 months or more. The political winds can shift overnight, leaving you stranded in the crossfire. Climate risk makes everything from getting insurance to just managing construction a total nightmare. And there's this deep, historically earned distrust of outside developers who are seen as just coming to extract wealth. This makes community alignment not just a nice-to-have, but an absolute prerequisite for survival. So a smart operator doesn't just, accept these risks. They build a system specifically to diffuse them. Instead of fighting the central government's bureaucracy, you partner directly with mayors to create what are called fast-track reuse zones. To deal with that community distrust, you don't just make promises, you build in an anti-displacement guarantee. That could mean offering a right of first refusal to community land trusts or building local first hiring right into your contracts. It's all about designing a system that anticipates and navigates the friction from the get-go. So what kind of contender could possibly succeed in an environment like this? It can't be a traditional one-off project developer. No way. It has to be something different. An entire operating system designed specifically to turn all that friction into fuel. And that's where Prepared comes in. The name tells you everything you need to know. This isn't just a brand, it's a full-on strategy. Resilience for the climate shocks, emergency preparedness for the blackouts, adaptation and reuse to leverage all those existing buildings, and independent energy development to break free from the failing grid. Every single piece of the name is a direct answer to a core crisis we just talked about. And this shows the playbook in action. Prepared doesn't start from scratch on every project. It uses a series of simple, repeatable templates that are almost like conversion algorithms. They take the island's most common abandoned assets and turn them into its most desperately needed services. This template-driven model is exactly what makes the process predictable, fast, and, at the end of the day, bankable. This quote,
This is really the philosophical core of the entire platform. It's a powerful and direct answer to those very valid fears of gentrification and displacement. It reframes development not as some kind of invasion, but as an act of service, unlocking the potential of a community's own assets for the benefit of its own residents.
Okay, so let's pop the hood on this platform. An AI-powered map systematically finds the highest potential abandoned buildings, which allows for strategic scaling. The anti-displacement guarantee is the social technology that builds that crucial trust on the ground. A network of certified local contractors provides quality control without the bloat of a massive in-house team. And that template model, like we saw, makes the entire process repeatable and financially viable.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. Why go through all this trouble? Why not just stick to the US mainland, where the rules are clearer and, the grid actually works? This is where the strategic trade-offs become absolutely critical to understand. And for a venture like this, the team itself is a huge part of the equation. A team built for this kind of challenge needs a really rare combination of skills. You need Steve's systems thinking to design the platform, Ankita's human-centered design to build trust visually, and Anuta's blend of financial modeling and emotional intelligence to structure community-safe deals. But the weaknesses are obvious. It's a small team facing a huge system with a high risk of burnout and that constant need to prove they aren't just another group of outsiders. So here's the bottom line. The mainland is better if your goal is a traditional value-add flip in Cleveland or San Antonio. The permits are faster, the banks are more comfortable, the exit is easier. But you're competing with absolutely everyone else. Puerto Rico is way harder on every one of those metrics, but it offers what the mainland can't: a massive supply of cheap assets, almost zero competition in this specific niche, and the perfect environment to forge a globally relevant platform for resilience. And let's not sugarcoat the difficulty. This chart really gives you a sense of the operational headwind you're facing. The level of bureaucratic friction in Puerto Rico is more than double the mainland average. This is not a place for the impatient or for the faint of heart. All right, so after weighing all this incredible opportunity against the immense risk, what's the final verdict? Is this a viable blueprint for a new kind of development, or is it just a foolish gamble? Let's just put the question out there directly. If you're an investor or developer looking for your next big move, should you pack your bags for San Juan? The answer is, well, it depends entirely on what game you're trying to play. This venture works, but only under some very specific conditions. It works if your goal is to build a scalable, tech-enabled platform, not just to flip a few buildings. It works if your projects are designed from day one to be completely independent of the grid. It works if you build your strategy around alliances with local mayors. And it works if your capital is patient, designed for long-term cash flow, not a quick liquid exit. And that brings us to the single most important takeaway here. For a venture like this, the individual real estate deals, they aren't the main prize. The real upside, the truly venture-scale opportunity, is in proving that the prepared platform works here so it can then be licensed and exported to the rest of the world. And this is the ultimate strategic twist. Puerto Rico's greatest challenges are also its greatest assets. In a way, the mainland is just too easy. The intense friction here forces a level of systemic innovation and operational resilience that no other market demands. It's like a forge, and what comes out of it is strong enough to handle a much more volatile future. And that leaves us with this final question. If you can create a successful blueprint for rapid, resilient, community-focused reuse here in the ultimate test island, where does that blueprint go next? Post-Hurricane Florida? Sun-scorched Arizona? The aging cities of the Rust Belt? The answer is everywhere, that the future is arriving ahead of schedule.